I'm 97, and that was 80 years ago. I was 17 years old.
So you were young in World War II.
Yes.
You were a young guy.
Yes, I was.
Tell me, why did you choose the Navy?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to go to the Army. A lot of my buddies went to the Navy, and they were telling me, you know, how nice it was. And my biggest problem was the reason I went to the service, I was playing football. I made the team. When you played football, your parents had to sign if there's any injuries. Well, my parents would not sign. I says, well, if I can't play football, I might as well go to the service. Well, even when I went to go, they would not sign for me because they had to be 18. Well, I was only 16, really. Well, then finally they did sign. What happened was there was an overload. They sent me back home. I was on inactive duty. My active duty started February the 1st, 1945. Or I'd have been in 1944.
So your active duty began February 1st, 45.
Yes.
And is that when you went to boot camp?
Yes.
Tell me about boot camp.
I didn't like it. Great Lakes, Illinois. I had never been away from home. And I'll tell you, when I got there, I just bawled like a baby. I was a young kid. And it was tough. I mean, there was no easiness. They were tough on us. They wanted us to be hard. And it was below zero. That was the start of February in Chicago. And it was bad. Well, then, after being there a while, the craziest thing was the one day it got warm. We had pea coats, heavy, and hats. There I'm walking down the roadway. I had my pea coat unbuttoned and my watch cap back. I don't know if he was an officer, but anybody that didn't have boots, we had to salute him. And he looked at me and he says, where do you think you're going? He says, you know, you're out of uniform. He says, I want you to write 500 times, I will wear my pea coat button and my watch cap squared at all times. I never forget that. So what happened, the next day they started an interview. I wanted to go to sub-school in New London, Connecticut. Well, they examined me. They said something with this ear that I couldn't take it. So then they mentioned, well, we had this other parts of the service. Would you be interested? Well, when they went down the line and they said, Seabees, if you join that, you can go home for 13 days. So right away, I knew about that signing. I wanted out of there. So I went home for 13 days and reported to Camp Endicott, Rhode Island. It was like a Marine SeaBee training. I was there 8 weeks. Down to Gulfport, Mississippi, through the Panama Canal, on the water 30 days. I mean, we didn't see nothing but water. What we did, we circled the Iwo Jima, stayed there overnight in Okinawa. Then we circled around again to the Marianas Islands. Well, I ended up on Guam. The reason they took us in there, we had to secure the island. The war had ended, but the Japs were hiding. They were in caves. You got to watch snipers. That was the dangerous part, especially at night. We did not walk a straight line. They said zigzag. They didn't even get up in them coconut trees. That was the part. And the one day we had some free time, so we were throwing a football around on the grinder, they called it, and the guys were shooting at us. One of the fellows almost got hit. So that they gave us these flamethrowers. We had to go up to these caves. Well, instead of go in, we tried to smoke them out. And they were told, put your hands behind your head, stripped to the waist. We will not harm you. Well, some did come in. Well, then we had to guard these. So to keep them busy, they took them around the beaches, sweeping the beaches off, clearing it. So, but they didn't give us any problem. They were all small. The Japanese Army guys were little. Now, their Marines were bigger. So we didn't have any problem with them. So that's what he did for a while there. And then I was with the stevedores, see. We had to unload. We unloaded, we didn't know it, the atomic bomb. And was assembled there on Guam. The only thing we knew, we couldn't wear our tent, they called them skivvy shoes. Stocking feet, they said no sparks. But they wouldn't tell us what was going on. And then the night of the 14th, that whole sky, B-29s. There's no way they could ever got to this when they went to bomb Japan. So then we found out that was the news. And we were supposed to, my training was, we were supposed to leave Guam on the 16th of August and go to China. The invasion was set for November 1st for Japan. Well, what happened was, since the war ended, the Marines still had to leave, but we stayed on Guam. We had a lot of shipping to do, unloading, a lot of stuff. Bags of cement, that was a heavy thing. And we did that. So the Marines still had to go. I had all this heavy equipment they issued me. They said, send it home. So I did, because we didn't need it then, in case of this from China to go to Japan. And they told us we were going to be on the second wave. They told us afterwards there's no way that wouldn't have happened, would have been wiped out, because the Japs were all set up in their harbor. And I was thankful of all that.
Tell me about VJ Day. Do you remember it?
Yeah, they gave us sea bags of Blatz beer, and it was warm, no ice. They said, here, celebrate. Well, that was our celebration. That was it.
Art, what was your SeaBee battalion number?
I was in 3 different ones. I was in the 2nd Special, the 29th, and the last was the 34th. So the 2nd was all older guys. They were older than my father. Well, then it dwindled down, and I ended up as it on the 34th.
So you were the young kid.
Yes, I was. Yes.
What was your job?
I was on a crane. It was a big crane. There was 3 of us. Like sometimes some of these ships that were battered, we'd have to go out and bring them in. If there was any heavy equipment, and bring it into Guam. They had a repair spot in there. And that was it. I mean, a lot of training, but we were lucky the war ended. That's the reason Truman is my favorite, I'll tell you.
So you were a crane operator.
Well, something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, I had my book. I couldn't find it. After we come home, they issued us just so I could get in graduation, and it had pictures in there, and the whole unit was in there. And that was it. But that was a tough thing there. I mean, really. And the toughest thing was, at night, the Japs would come in near the mess hall to get food out of the garbage cans. So what happened, the one day, we're in line, and a fellow noticed up ahead his name. See, all our uniforms, we had our names central on the back. Here one of the Japs got through, and he was getting in line to get some food. And so even that, we had to be on our toes, because everybody was dark from the sun and the heat, because it was hot there.
When did you finally get home?
We left there in May, and I got home in, I'd say in May or June.
Of 46.
Yes. Then I was discharged on my birthday, exactly July the 27th, 1946.
What was it like coming home after so long overseas?
The funny part of it was, see, we went to the Golden Gate Bridge, Oakland, there was a Navy Center. And when we was going overseas, we always hollered Golden Gate in 48 when we come back in 46. But the first thing we did, the first night they let us go on Liberty, we went into San Francisco, I'll never forget, 7-Eleven restaurant, and what we ordered is a big glass of milk and a steak. Because overseas we had powdered milk, and that's what we ate. We did not drink. We had steak and the milk. And that was in San Francisco.
How did you get over your homesickness? I mean, you were homesick when you were at Great Lakes, but you had it tough then at Endicott.
It wore off afterwards. You know, I got meeting guys my age then. Because we were actually 43 that left from Youngstown. And during the time, a few of them, to the very end, one was right from Youngstown with me. So we did have a crew. And knowing having from your own town, it made it a lot better.
What was it like seeing your parents again?
Well, I'll tell you, I got the cab this was during the night. And the cab pulled up. I was living not far from here. And I guess they almost fell down the steps, hurrying up to come out to the car. That was comical. Because I surprised them, see. They didn't know what time I was coming. The funny thing about all this, when we was coming back from San Francisco, we was by train. I had a mustache. Well, you know how the trains make bends? Well, I was shaving. Well, then I had to take it off because I messed it up. But the first thing I did when I got home, my mother said, roll up your sleeves. She wanted tattoos, and I come close to getting one, but I did not have any tattoos. Because see, on the way back from Guam, we did stop at Pearl Harbor, and that's all that was in there, tattoo shops, and everybody was getting them. And I was lucky I got out of it. There was 4 of us. We pulled straws. I was number 4. Well, when the third one got done, our curfew was 4 o'clock. So we had to get back with Red Hill. It was on the outskirts of Pearl Harbor. So I didn't get any tattoos.
That's a great story.
they were nice, you know, the SeaBee thing. That was it.
And I love that your mom said, roll up your sleeve. I want to...
that was the first thing, because they did not believe in that. And I'm glad I didn't get any.
So Art, you come home you get out of the Navy, July 27th, 1946. How old are you then? 19?
19.
So you're a 19-year-old war veteran. You're just a kid.
I know. Yes.
What did you do the rest of your life? What kind of work did you do?
Well, first of all, what happened, there was a ruling. See, my father wanted to build a house in Boardman. You had to be a veteran in the family. But when I come home, he got a permit. He built a house. He was a carpenter. He built a house in Boardman. So we moved in 48 out to Boardman. Then I worked at general fireproofing just for a short time. Then I got into the optical fields. I started at Youngstown Optical as an lens grinding. I went to American Optical. I learned each step. Now this was under the GI Bill. I took that up because our pay was 40 cents an hour. Then the government paid for the schooling. Well, in the meantime, I was working at Sears store, and I learned to be a true optician. In fact, I got licensed. I was licensed for 40 years. I worked with eye doctors, and I managed, when Eastwood Mall opened, I managed the optical department. I did not work for Sears. We were Cole National. We leased the work in there, and I was in there 25 years. Then I retired at, 1990 was my official retirement. I retired sooner, but they needed help. So I used to go in and still work just enough hours that I could still get my Social Security.
So you're a retired optician.
Yes.
How interesting.
Yes, it was work. I mean, working with eye doctors, it was clean. My hands were clean. I had to get dressed up to go to work every day.
Art, looking back now, what do you think the Navy did for you in your life? I mean, how did it shape you?
Discipline. A lot of discipline. I mean, that was it. And my parents were strict with me. To tell you how strict they were, when I came home on leave, they said a curfew. I had to be home 10 o'clock at night. Imagine that now. I'm a veteran. I had to be home at 10 o'clock. So that's why I was never in trouble. There's none marks against me, so that's it.
Art, what a delight to talk to you. I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much.
Wow.